The silent deception. The quantum scanner's holographic display cast an eerie blue glow across Commander Sarah Chen's face as she stared at the intercepted transmission. After 15 years of serving as Earth's head of deep space intelligence, she had learned to trust her instincts. This message, encrypted in what the Galactic Council thought was an unbreakable cipher, made her blood run cold. "Play it again, AI," she commanded. The AI compliance officer materialized the quantum stream once more, its crystalline patterns revealing the Council's treachery in perfect clarity. The Council had secretly signed the Zenith Accord, a pact that would allow the aggressive Zenith Empire to peacefully annex Earth's colonial territories. In exchange, the Council would receive access to the Empire's dark matter harvesting technology. They had sold out humanity for power, plain and simple. Sarah's hands clenched into fists as she watched the Council representatives, beings she had once respected, callously discuss the fate of billions of humans as if they were trading common commodities. The transmission ended with the Council's high speaker declaring that Earth's representatives would be managed appropriately to prevent any resistance. "AI, initiate Perseus Protocol," Sarah spoke, her voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. "Authorization, Chen Alpha 79. Perseus Protocol initiated." Commander, AI responded, "Awakening the fleet." Deep beneath Earth's oceans and hidden in asteroid bases throughout the solar system, massive hangars hummed to life. While the Council believed Earth possessed only a modest defense force of outdated ships, the truth was far different. For decades, humanity had been preparing for betrayal. The Perseus Initiative, unknown to even most of Earth's government, had produced vessels that would reshape the understanding of space warfare. Quantum-shifted hulls that could phase through conventional weapons, dark energy drives that bent space itself, and AI systems that could predict enemy movements seconds before they happened. All developed in absolute secrecy. Sarah opened a secure channel to Admiral James Rodriguez, commanding officer of Earth's official fleet. "James, it's time. They've signed the accord." A moment of silence followed. "Understood. I'll begin the evacuation protocol." "How long do we have?" "The Council plans to announce the accord in 72 hours. We move before then." Sarah pulled up a tactical display of known Council forces. "Your fleet needs to appear to be caught completely off guard. Make it convincing." "Don't worry about us," James replied. "Just make sure those Perseus ships are everything the eggheads promised. We're betting everything on this." Sarah ended the transmission and turned to the quantum scanner once more. Across the galaxy, Council ships moved in their predictable patterns, their commanders confident in their superiority. They had no idea that humans had long ago surpassed their understanding of physics and warfare. The next 48 hours passed in a blur of preparation. Sarah coordinated with cell leaders across Earth's colonies, arranging for millions of civilians to be quietly moved to secure locations. The Council's spies reported everything as normal, just another day in humanity's supposedly primitive territories. When the Perseus fleet finally emerged from its hidden docks, even Sarah felt her breath catch. The ships seemed to drink in light itself, their quantum-shifted hulls creating visual distortions that made them appear almost ghost-like. 300 vessels, each more advanced than anything the Council had ever encountered, assembled in perfect formation. "AI, status report on the fleet," Sarah commanded. "All vessels reporting optimal functionality, Commander. Quantum cores stable, dark energy drives synchronized. The fleet is ready." Sarah opened a channel to all Perseus vessels. "This is Commander Chen. The Galactic Council believes they can sacrifice our people for their own gain. They think we're primitive, weak, predictable. Today, we show them how wrong they are." She paused, looking at the tactical display one final time. "Execute Operation Shadowfall." The Perseus fleet moved with impossible grace, ships phasing in and out of normal space as they accelerated to speeds the Council had deemed theoretically impossible. Their first target, the Council's premier shipyards in the Centauri sector, the facility that had built the very ships intended to enforce humanity's submission, would be the first to fall. As the fleet disappeared into quantum space, Sarah allowed herself a grim smile. The Council had forgotten the most important lesson about humanity. We are at our most dangerous when backed into a corner. They would learn this lesson well in the coming days. The silent deception was over. Now began the age of humanity's fury. Operation Shadow Strike. The Centauri shipyards hung in space like a metal spider web, construction drones moving between partially completed Council warships. High Commander Vextal of the Council Security Force stood at his observation post, mandibles clicking with satisfaction. Soon these ships would ensure Earth's compliance with the new order. His satisfaction evaporated as the sensor officer's voice crackled through the command center. High Commander, we're detecting unusual quantum fluctuations in Sector 7. Before Vextal could respond, reality itself seemed to tear open. The Perseus fleet materialized from quantum space, their dark hulls absorbing the starlight like liquid shadows. The Council's advanced warning systems, designed to detect any known form of propulsion, had given them less than 2 seconds of notice. Commander Sarah Chen's voice echoed through every communication channel in the shipyard. This is your only warning. Evacuate all personnel immediately. Vextal's mandibles clicked rapidly in agitation. Launch all defense platforms. Contact the Council fleet at. The quantum-shifted hulls of the Perseus vessels pulsed with energy. Concentrated beams of dark energy lanced out, passing straight through the shipyard's supposedly impenetrable shields, as if they didn't exist. Where the beams touched, matter simply ceased to be, creating perfect cylindrical holes through the massive structure. Impossible. Vextal screamed. Our shields are rated to stop. Sir, his tactical officer interrupted. They're weapons. They're operating on principles we've never seen. The energy signatures don't match anything in our database. Aboard the Perseus flagship Nemesis, Sarah watched the tactical display with cold satisfaction. Area, status of enemy evacuation. 87% of civilian personnel have reached escape pods. Remaining military personnel are attempting to mount a defense. Sarah nodded. The Perseus initiative had been built on human ingenuity, yes, but also on human morality. They would not needlessly sacrifice lives, even those of their enemies. Hold position until evacuation is complete. Maintain suppressing fire on military targets only. The Council's defense platforms opened fire, filling space with a web of plasma bolts and particle beams. The Perseus ships shifted partially out of normal space, allowing the attacks to pass harmlessly through their quantum-shifted hulls. It was like trying to shoot a ghost. Evacuation complete, Commander. Area reported. Execute Phase 2. The Perseus fleet moved in perfect synchronization, their dark energy drives allowing maneuvers that defied conventional physics. They encircled the massive shipyard in a complex three-dimensional pattern that left Vextal's tactical officers speechless. Energy spike detected. Someone shouted. The Perseus ships linked their quantum cores, creating a cascading resonance field that encompassed the entire shipyard. Within this field, the laws of physics began to break down at a fundamental level. Metal twisted and warped as quantum uncertainty took hold at a macro scale. Vextal watched in horror as the pride of the Council's shipbuilding capability collapsed in on itself, crushed by forces that his finest scientists had deemed impossible to control. Decades of work and hundreds of warships intended to subjugate Earth reduced to a sphere of compressed matter smaller than a shuttle. Send the footage to all Council command centers, Sarah ordered. They need to understand exactly what they're dealing with. Across Council space, military commanders watched in stunned silence as humanity revealed its true technological capabilities. The Perseus fleet had not just destroyed the shipyard. They had demonstrated complete mastery over forces that the Council had barely begun to understand. Primary objective complete, Area announced. Detecting multiple Council battle groups responding to our position. Sarah allowed herself a small smile. Right on schedule. Prepare for Phase 3. The Perseus fleet split into precisely calculated squadrons, each targeting a different strategic location across Council space. As they vanished into quantum space, Sarah opened a channel to Earth Command. Operation Shadow Strike Phase 1 complete. The Council wanted to see humanity's response to their betrayal. They're about to get a very thorough demonstration. In the ruins of the Centauri shipyard, Vextal's emergency pod drifted among the debris. His mandibles had stopped clicking, frozen in a position of utter disbelief. The Council had thought they were dealing with primitives who could be safely sacrificed for political gain. Instead, they had awakened something far more dangerous, a humanity that had secretly surpassed them in every way that mattered. And this was only the beginning. The alliance shatters. The Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council, normally a place of measured debate and careful diplomacy, had descended into chaos. Representatives from 100 species shouted over each other as footage of the Centauri shipyard's destruction played on endless repeat above their heads. High Speaker Zalthran, his crystalline form pulsing with agitation, struggled to maintain order. The humans have revealed themselves as a threat to galactic stability. We must unite against. Unite. The Arcturian representatives' bioluminescent patterns flashed with anger. Like you united with the Zenith Empire to betray Earth, our longest-standing trading partner. In the shadows of the chamber's upper tier, Sarah Chen watched the growing discord with satisfaction. The Perseus Initiative hadn't just planned for military victory. It had prepared for political warfare as well. RIA, initiate diplomatic sequence Delta, she subvocalized through her quantum neural link. Across the galaxy, carefully planted data caches began releasing their contents into public networks. Evidence of the Council's corruption, secret deals, and planned betrayals of not just Earth, but dozens of other species. The Medusan representatives' tentacles coiled in rage as the data streamed across their neural interface. The Council planned to seize our outer colonies as well, under the pretense of protective occupation. The humans aren't the threat. The Regelian ambassador's mechanical voice resonated through the chamber. They merely exposed the cancer at the heart of our supposed unity. Sarah watched as decades of carefully maintained alliances began to crumble. The Council had built its power on secrets and lies, never suspecting that humanity had been documenting everything, waiting for the perfect moment to reveal the truth. In orbit above the Council homeworld, the Perseus fleet maintained its position, quantum-shifted hulls rendering them virtually invisible to conventional sensors. Admiral Rodriguez's voice came through Sarah's secure channel. The Arcturus Confederation is requesting immediate talks. They're offering military support. The dominoes are falling exactly as predicted, Sarah replied. Open diplomatic channels but maintain combat readiness. The Council still has one card left to play. As if on cue, the massive doors of the Grand Chamber burst open. Zenith Empire warriors stormed in, their biomechanical armor humming with deadly energy. High Speaker Zalthran's crystalline form brightened with relief. The Zenith Empire stands with the Council. Their forces will help us maintain order and... His voice cut off as the Zenith warriors suddenly stopped, their armor powering down. Their commander stepped forward, helmet retracting to reveal a human face. I'm afraid, the infiltrator said with a cold smile. The Zenith Empire has new leadership. Sarah stepped out of the shadows, finally revealing herself to the stunned assembly. While you were watching our fleet, other pieces were moving into position. The Zenith Empire's leadership has been replaced. Their forces now answer to the Free Systems Coalition. The chamber erupted again, but this time with demands for immediate withdrawal from the Council. Species after species announced their intention to join the new coalition, leaving the corrupt old order behind. High Speaker Zalthran's crystalline form dimmed as he realized the full scope of his defeat. How long have you been planning this? Since the day we joined the Council, Sarah replied. Humans have a long history of dealing with empires and their inevitable betrayals. We learned to prepare accordingly. The Perseus fleet began broadcasting new coordinates throughout Council space. The location of Haven, a massive space station that had been built in secret over decades. It would serve as the headquarters for the new Free Systems Coalition, a true alliance based on mutual respect and cooperation rather than dominance and fear. As former council members rushed to pledge allegiance to the new order, Sarah received another message from Admiral Rodriguez. The Necros hegemony is mobilizing their fleet. They're still loyal to the council. Sarah's expression hardened. The Necros, cybernetically enhanced warriors who had long served as the council's enforcers. This was the final battle they had prepared for. Alert all Perseus squadrons, she commanded. Operation Checkmate begins now. Let's show the galaxy what humanity can really do when we stop holding back. As the Perseus fleet moved into attack formation, Sarah addressed the assembled representatives one final time. The age of secrets and betrayals is over. Welcome to a new era, one where humanity stands as an equal partner, not a pawn to be sacrificed. The alliance had shattered, but from its ruins, something better would rise. And humanity, so long underestimated, would help lead the way. Checkmate in the void. The Necros battle fleet emerged from hyperspace like a storm of living metal. 10,000 ships, each crewed by cybernetically enhanced warriors who had spent centuries enforcing the Council's will. Their neural networks hummed with cold calculation as they approached the Perseus fleet's position near the Arcturian Nexus. Supreme Commander Nexus Zero, more machine now than organic, watched the tactical display with artificial calm. The humans have shown impressive capabilities, but they cannot stand against our numbers. Begin the attack pattern. Aboard the Nemesis, Sarah Chen watched the Necros fleet's approach with practiced patience. Area, status of Operation Checkmate. All pieces in position. Commander, quantum entanglement network at full capacity. The Nexus is responding exactly as predicted. The Necros fleet split into their infamous pyramid formation, a battle strategy that had conquered 1,000 worlds. Energy weapons charged, targeting systems locked onto the seemingly outnumbered Perseus vessels. Interesting, Nexus Zero observed. They're not retreating. Calculate probability of human victory. His neural network processed the scenario instantly. Probability of human victory, 0.1%. Their force is too small, their position too exposed. They cannot. The space around the Arcturian Nexus suddenly lit up with quantum distortions. Where there had been empty void, hundreds of Perseus ships materialized. They had been there the whole time, their quantum-shifted hulls perfectly camouflaged against the backdrop of space itself. Probability calculation error. Nexus Zero's systems blared. Recalculating. Sarah's voice cut through all communication channels. You've spent so long relying on cybernetic enhancement that you've forgotten something crucial about human nature. We excel at making the impossible possible. The Perseus fleet moved in perfect synchronization, their positions forming a complex geometric pattern around the Necros forces. Dark energy beams linked ship to ship, creating a web of quantum-entangled energy. You're not just fighting our ships, Sarah continued. You're fighting mathematics itself. The quantum web began to pulse, each beat sending ripples through space-time. The Necros fleet's formation began to waver as their navigational systems encountered equations they couldn't process. Their strategy is clear, Nexus Zero announced. They're attempting to disrupt our neural networks with quantum interference. Adjust shields toe. No, Sarah interrupted. That's not our strategy at all. Area, execute final sequence. The quantum web suddenly contracted, its energy condensing into a precise geometric pattern. The laws of physics within the battle zone began to rewrite themselves according to human design parameters. Nexus Zero watched in horror as his ship's cybernetic systems began to separate from their organic components. The quantum field was literally unraveling the boundary between machine and flesh, undoing centuries of Necros enhancement in seconds. Impossible. Nexus Zero's voice carried genuine emotion for the first time in centuries. Our technology is perfect. Our calculations err. Your calculations are based on what you thought was possible, Sarah replied. Humanity has moved beyond those limitations. We don't just use technology. We reimagine what it can do. Across the Necros fleet, cybernetically enhanced warriors found themselves suddenly, shockingly, fully organic again. Their ships, dependent on the neural integration of machine and pilot, began to drift powerless in space. You could have killed us, Nexus Zero realized, touching his now fully organic face with trembling fingers. Instead, you freed us. The Perseus Initiative was never about replacing one form of dominance with another, Sarah explained. It was about showing the galaxy a better way forward. You're no longer bound to the Council's service. Join us. Help us build something better. The battle that was supposed to decide the fate of the galaxy ended not with destruction, but with transformation. The Necros fleet, once the Council's ultimate weapon, became its final defeat. As rescue ships moved in to assist the former Necros warriors, Sarah received word that the last Council holdouts were surrendering. The old order was truly finished. Commander, Araya announced, the Free Systems Coalition is requesting your presence. It's time to begin building the new governance structure. Sarah looked out at the field of ships, former enemies now potential allies, and allowed herself a moment of satisfaction. Humanity had not just survived the Council's betrayal, they had turned it into an opportunity for genuine change. Send word to Earth, she commanded. Operation Checkmate is complete. A new game is about to begin. A new dawn. 1 year after the Arcturian Nexus battle, Haven Station rotated peacefully against the backdrop of a nebula chosen for its symbolic beauty. The massive structure, revealed at last in all its glory, represented everything humanity had envisioned for the galaxy's future, a place where technology and nature coexisted, where different species could meet as equals. Sarah Chen stood in the Grand Assembly Chamber, now filled with representatives from every corner of the galaxy. Former Council worlds, independent systems, even the reformed Necros Society, all gathered to formalize the principles of the Free Systems Coalition. The quantum core is stable, Araya reported through their neural link. The station's systems are operating at optimal efficiency. Sarah nodded, watching as former enemies engaged in peaceful dialogue. The station itself was a testament to human ingenuity. Built using the same quantum-shifted technology that had won the war, but repurposed for peace, its walls could phase between solid and transparent, allowing species with different atmospheric needs to interact naturally. Former Supreme Commander Nexus Zero, now known simply as Nexer, approached her. His organic features had softened over the past year, showing emotion that would have been impossible in his cybernetic form. The medical department reports success with the last group of enhanced warriors, he said. They're adapting well to their restored organic states. Many are asking to join the Coalition's peacekeeping force. And how are you adapting? Sarah asked. Nexer smiled, an expression that still felt new to him. I had forgotten what it was like to truly feel. The Council told us enhancement was evolution, but they just wanted soldiers who wouldn't question orders. Humanity showed us their strength in remaining true to ourselves. The assembly chamber quieted as Admiral Rodriguez took the central platform. The Perseus fleet's quantum arrays now served as a communications network, allowing his words to reach every world in Coalition space simultaneously. 1 year ago, we faced a choice, he began. We could have used our technological superiority to establish a new empire. Instead, we chose a harder path, building a true alliance of equals. The quantum displays activated, showing the progress made in just 1 year. The former Zenith Empire territories, transformed into thriving trade hubs. The Necros worlds, their societies reorganizing around organic enhancement rather than cybernetic replacement. Even the former Council headquarters, now a center for technological and cultural exchange. Humanity's greatest strength, Rodriguez continued, was never our secret fleet or our quantum technology. It was our ability to imagine a better future and work towards it, even when others thought it impossible. Sarah's neural link chimed with an incoming message from Earth. The Perseus Initiative's original architects wanted to share their latest breakthrough, a way to use quantum-shifted technology to restore ecosystems damaged by centuries of exploitation. The Coalition Security Council is ready for you, Commander, Araya announced. Sarah made her way to the council chamber, where representatives from 12 different species awaited. Together, they would tackle the challenges that no single civilization could solve alone. The Deep Space Monitoring Network detected unusual activity in the void between galaxies, the Arcturian representative reported. Something may be heading toward our space. Sarah felt a familiar spark of excitement. Once, such news would have prompted fear and preparation for war. Now, it represented an opportunity for discovery and cooperation. Prepare a first contact team, she ordered, and activate the Perseus fleet's long-range quantum sensors. Whatever's out there, we'll face it together. As the council members coordinated their response, Sarah reflected on how far they'd come. The council's betrayal had been meant to subjugate humanity. Instead, it had catalyzed a transformation that benefited all species. Commander, Araya's voice carried a note of what might have been pride. The Coalition Charter has been ratified by the last remaining independent systems. The unification is complete. Outside the station's quantum-shifted windows, ships from 100 worlds moved in harmonious patterns. The Perseus fleet, once Earth's secret weapon, now served as guardians of a peace built on mutual respect and understanding. Send word to all Coalition worlds, Sarah commanded. The age of division is over. We face the future as one people, bound not by force or fear, but by choice and hope. As her words echoed across the galaxy, Sarah Chen, the architect of humanity's greatest victory, allowed herself to smile. They had not just survived betrayal. They had used it to forge something magnificent. The dawn of a new era had truly begun. And humanity, no longer hidden in the shadows, would help light the way forward. This silent Earth. The Carvaz warship Inevitable Dominance cast a shadow across the seventh planet of the Rigel system. The locals called themselves the Zintheri, peaceful agrarians with technology barely advanced enough for rudimentary space exploration. They didn't stand a chance. Send the ultimatum, Commander Thrax ordered, his obsidian exoskeleton gleaming under the command deck's lights. 6 eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of satisfaction among his kind. Lieutenant Krell, a newer addition to the command staff, initiated the transmission. The same message sent to hundreds of worlds before. The Zintheri would have 24 standard cycles to surrender unconditionally to the Carvaz Empire. Resistance meant extinction. Another world for the glory of the Empire, Thrax rumbled. In 3 centuries of expansion, the Carvaz had conquered over 200 civilizations. Their biomechanical technology, honed through generations of warfare, made them unstoppable. Commander, Krell's voice wavered, unusual for the disciplined officer. High Command has transmitted new orders. We are to abandon the Zintheri operation and proceed immediately to coordinates in an unexplored sector. Thrax's mandibles clicked in irritation. Abandon. The Zintheri mining resources are already cataloged for extraction. The orders come directly from Grand Imperator Zovk. 3 days later, the Inevitable Dominance joined a gathering fleet near the edge of what humans once called the Orion Arm. 12 capital ships and 30 support vessels, the largest battle group assembled in 50 years. Admiral Dreng, the Empire's most decorated commander, addressed the gathered officers from his flagship. His carapace, scared from countless battles, commanded immediate silence when he appeared on the view screen. The Empire faces an anomaly. Dreng began. 70 years ago, our long-range scouts discovered a promising world with an advancing civilization. Standard protocol was followed. A beacon was deployed with our ultimatum. But when our conquest fleet arrived, they found something unprecedented. The view screen shifted to show a blue-green planet. This is Earth, home to a species called humans, When our fleet arrived to accept their surrender, they found cities standing empty. Infrastructure intact. Power systems operational. But no humans. Not one. Scans detected residual nuclear radiation and biological markers suggesting self-destruction. Thrax leaned forward. A species that chose extinction over surrender. Unprecedented. The planet was marked for resource harvesting and forgotten. Drang continued. Until 3 days ago, when this appeared at the edge of the Centauri system. The image changed to show a vessel unlike any Thrax had seen. No visible propulsion systems, no weapons arrays. Its surface shifted like liquid metal, refracting light in impossible ways. This vessel appeared without warning. No warp signature, no conventional engine emissions. It transmitted a message using our military encryption codes, codes that haven't been used in 70 years. Drang's voice lowered. The message was simple. The humans are coming to answer in person. Murmurs spread through the command deck. Thrax felt an unfamiliar sensation along his spine, something ancient genetic memory identified as fear. Our mission is to intercept and neutralize this potential threat, Drang concluded. Perhaps these are survivors who fled Earth before our arrival. Perhaps something else entirely. But the Empire will not tolerate mysteries or threats. The fleet moved with precision toward the Sol system, Earth's home. Long-range scanners monitored for anomalies. Weapon systems remained at maximum readiness. But nothing appeared. For 3 days, they waited in formation beyond the orbit of what humans had called Neptune. Then, without warning, every system on every ship simultaneously received the same message. We've been expecting you. Thank you for your patience. Before anyone could react, a pinpoint of light appeared before the fleet. It expanded, not like a ship emerging from warp, but like reality itself unfolding. The same vessel from the Centauri system hovered before them, now joined by 3 others of similar design. Open fire, Admiral Drang commanded. Energy weapons and fusion torpedoes launched from every ship in the fleet, enough firepower to shatter a small moon. The weapons passed through the vessels as if they were holograms. Scans show no physical matter at those coordinates. Thrax's sensor officer reported, mandibles trembling. But energy readings are off the scale. A new transmission reached them. May we come aboard to talk? We've waited 70 years for this conversation. Admiral Drang, against the protests of his security staff, agreed to meet the visitors on his flagship. Thrax, as one of the senior commanders, was among those present when they arrived, not by shuttle or teleportation, but by simply appearing in the designated conference chamber. They looked almost human in basic shape, bipedal with recognizable features, but their bodies seemed composed of swirling metallic particles that constantly shifted, like sand reforming itself with purpose. Where eyes should be, pools of blue energy pulsed. Thank you for receiving us, the foremost figure said. Its voice sounded directly in Thrax's mind rather than through air vibrations. I am Emissary Ilara, speaking for the human collective. Admiral Drang's exoskeleton flushed dark with aggression. What are you? The humans destroyed themselves rather than submit to the Empire. A necessary deception, Ilara replied. When your beacon arrived 70 years ago, humanity stood at a crossroads. Our civilization was already transitioning beyond biological limitations. Your ultimatum merely accelerated our plans. Transitioning. Thrax couldn't stop himself from asking. The emissary turned toward him, and Thrax felt the entity scanning his thoughts. Commander Thrax of the Inevitable Dominance. Yes, transitioning. What your sensors detected as nuclear destruction was actually the final phase of Project Ascension, the voluntary release of humanity from biological form. Images appeared in Thrax's mind, humans willingly connecting to massive machines, their consciousness transferring to energy matrices, their physical bodies deemed obsolete, the methodical dismantling of physical infrastructure. We became energy, information, consciousness without the limitations of flesh. Ilara continued. We could have engaged with your empire then, but we chose to watch and learn instead. For 70 years, we've observed your conquests, studied your civilization, and prepared for this meeting." Admiral Drain's voice was ice. "If you've observed us, then you know the power of the Empire. Whatever you've become, you are still one species against our might." For the first time, the emissary displayed something like emotion, a ripple of amusement through its fluid form. "Admiral, you misunderstand our purpose. We haven't revealed ourselves to fight you. We've come with an invitation." "An invitation to what?" Drain demanded. "To evolve." The word hung in the air like a physical thing. "Humanity hasn't been idle these 70 years, Ilara continued. "We've explored regions of space your ships could never reach. We've studied sciences your brightest minds haven't conceived. We've discovered that consciousness itself is the fundamental force of the universe, not something produced by matter, but the very thing that gives rise to it." Another of the human representatives stepped forward, its form shifting to display what appeared to be a galaxy-wide network of energy patterns. "This is what existence looks like to us now," the second emissary said. "Every star, every planet, every thinking being connected in ways physical senses cannot perceive. The Carvaz Empire appears to us as a dark distortion in this beautiful tapestry, expanding, consuming, destroying potential." Admiral Drain stood rigid. "You speak of evolution, but I hear only threats. The Empire does not surrender." "We're not asking for surrender," Ilara said gently. "We're offering transcendence." Thrax felt something brush against his consciousness, a glimpse of existence without limitations, of understanding beyond language, of connection to everything. It lasted only a moment before receding, leaving him shaken. "Impossible," he whispered. "We thought so too, once," Ilara replied. "Now we know better. Your empire conquers because you believe resources are finite, that power must be taken, that advancement comes through domination. We've discovered these are the delusions of biological existence." Admiral Drain regained his composure. "The Grand Imperator will never accept this philosophy. The Empire has thrived for millennia on strength." "We know," Ilara acknowledged. "That's why we've already spoken to him." The words struck like physical blows. "Already spoken? When? How?" "While we've been talking," the emissary explained, seeming to hear their thoughts, "other aspects of our collective have been addressing your leadership directly. Similar conversations are happening simultaneously on every major world in your empire." Drain's communication device chimed with an incoming priority message. His upper limbs trembled slightly as he read it. "The Grand Imperator has ordered all forces to stand down," he announced, his voice hollow with disbelief. "A delegation of humans is addressing the Imperial Council." Thrax felt the foundations of his reality crumbling. In all of recorded history, the Empire had never stood down. What happens now? He found himself asking. Ilara's form shifted, becoming more defined, almost smiling. "Now, Commander Thrax, your civilization faces its greatest challenge. Not conquest, but choice. Will you continue as you are, bound by biological imperatives and the limitations of physical form? Or will you join us in what comes next?" Outside the viewport, the stars seemed suddenly brighter, as if Thrax was seeing them clearly for the first time. "The galaxy has lived in fear of the Carvaz for too long," Ilara said. "We've come to change that, not by destroying you, but by helping you become more than conquerors." The human representatives began to fade from view, their forms dissolving into points of light. "We'll return tomorrow for your answer," Ilara's voice echoed in their minds as the lights vanished. "Choose wisely." In their wake, they left silence and the terrifying prospect of something the Empire had never before contemplated. Freedom from itself. The evolution of HFY, Grand Imperator Zovik's inner sanctum, had never been so crowded. Emergency protocols had brought the 12 high commanders of the Carvaz military and the 7 ministers of the Imperial Council together in the same room, an occurrence so rare that no living official could recall the last instance. Zovik himself remained unnaturally still on his elevated throne, chitinous armor gleaming under the harsh lights. Only the rhythmic clicking of his secondary mandibles betrayed his agitation. "The human emissaries have departed," announced Minister Vex, head of Imperial Intelligence. "But they've left something in orbit around every major world in the Empire." The holographic display at the center of the chamber showed identical vessels hovering above 17 different planets, silent, impenetrable sentinels. "Can we destroy them?" High Commander Grell demanded. "We've tried," Admiral Drain replied, newly returned from the Sol encounter. "Energy weapons pass through them. Physical projectiles are diverted. They appear to exist partially outside normal spacetime." Minister Thayer, oldest among those present, leaned forward on her walking staff. "In all our history, we have faced technological challenges, but never anything like this. These humans have evolved beyond our comprehension. Evolution is a biological process," countered Minister Krex of Science. "What these creatures describe is impossible. Consciousness cannot exist without a biological or mechanical substrate. Yet here we are." Imperator Zovik spoke finally, his deep voice silencing all others, faced with evidence that contradicts our understanding of reality. Thrax, standing at attention among the junior commanders, studied the Imperator's body language. 3 centuries as absolute ruler of the Empire had not prepared Zovik for this moment. No conquest algorithm could calculate a response to an enemy that refused to fight yet could not be defeated. "What exactly did they offer?" Zovik asked Drain directly. The Admiral's upper limbs formed the gesture of uncertainty. "They spoke of transcendence, Imperator, a path beyond biological existence. They claim to have discovered that consciousness is the fundamental force of the universe, not an emergent property of matter." "Philosophical nonsense," sneered Krex. "Perhaps," Drain acknowledged, "but they demonstrated abilities that support their claims. They appeared simultaneously across the Empire. They penetrated our most secure communications without detection. They rendered our weapons useless." Zovik's primary eyes narrowed. "And they claim they can offer this transformation to our species." "Yes, Imperator." Silence fell as each considered the implications. The Carvaz had expanded through the galaxy on a simple principle: conquer or be conquered. Resources were finite. Security came through strength. Evolution rewarded the dominant. These weren't merely military doctrines, but biological imperatives woven into their genetic memory from eons of natural selection on their harsh homeworld. "It's a trap," High Commander Grell insisted. "They offer transcendence but plan extinction." "If they wanted us extinct," Minister Thayer observed dryly, "they could have acted already. They've demonstrated power beyond our defenses." Thrax stepped forward, surprising himself with his boldness. "Imperator, may I speak?" Zovik's head tilted, recognizing the junior commander who had witnessed first contact. "Speak, Commander Thrax." "When the human emissary made contact with my mind, I experienced something." Thrax struggled to find words. "A glimpse of existence without the constraints we've always accepted. It felt true, like awakening from a dream to find reality was always larger than we imagined." "You sound converted already," Grell spat. "No, High Commander. I remain loyal to the Empire, but I believe this offer is genuine." Thrax straightened. "For 3 centuries, we've conquered because we believed it was the only path to security and advancement. What if we were wrong?" Before anyone could respond, every communication device in the chamber activated simultaneously. The human emissary Ilara appeared as a hologram at the center of the room. "Forgive the intrusion." Her voice resonated directly in their minds rather than through the audio systems. "But your time for deliberation has ended. Events elsewhere require our attention, and we must know your decision." Zovik stood, towering to his full height. "The Carvaz Empire does not respond well to ultimatums, human." "This is not an ultimatum, Imperator Zovik. It is an opportunity with an expiration." Ilara's form shifted, expanding to show a 3-dimensional map of the galaxy. Your empire appears as this dark region, expanding through conquest. But you are not the only conquerors. The map highlighted another expanding shadow at the galaxy's far edge. The Vexthel hive has been consuming worlds at a rate that will bring them into contact with your outer colonies within 5 years. Their biotechnology surpasses yours. Their numbers are vastly greater. They do not offer surrender, only assimilation. Data streams appeared, showing projections of empire worlds falling to creatures that appeared as swarms of insectoid machines. Our analysis gives the Carvaz Empire a 7% probability of survival in a direct conflict. Ilara continued. We offer you evolution not merely as philosophical enlightenment, but as practical salvation. Zovik's exoskeleton darkened with blood flow, a sign of intense concentration among his kind. Why would you help us? We came to your world as conquerors. Because that is what humanity has become. Ilara replied simply. We've evolved beyond the need for vengeance or domination. We see all conscious life as valuable, even former enemies. Ilara's form shifted again, displaying millions of energy patterns interconnected across space. This is the collective consciousness of 17 species who have already joined us in transcendence. Some were advanced civilizations who chose evolution. Others were primitive species we uplifted from extinction events. All retain their unique identity while sharing a greater existence. And what would happen to the empire? Zovik demanded. 3,000 years of history, culture, achievement. Preserved and enhanced, Ilara assured him. Your history becomes part of the collective memory. Your unique perspective enriches the whole. Nothing valuable is lost. But much that is destructive falls away naturally when the biological imperatives of competition and scarcity no longer apply. Minister Ther stepped forward, her ancient eyes studying the human representation. How would this transformation occur? For those who choose it, the process is individualized, Ilara explained. Your scientists would work with ours to create transition mechanisms compatible with Carvaz physiology. The process is voluntary. None would be forced to transcend. High Commander Grell slammed his armored fist on the table. This is surrender by another name. The Empire does not. The Empire, Zovik interrupted, has always adapted to survive. All eyes turned to the Imperator. 3 millennia ago, our ancestors faced extinction on our homeworld when solar radiation increased beyond tolerable levels. They modified their biology with technology, creating the exoskeletons we now consider natural. 8 centuries ago, we incorporated quantum algorithms into our strategic planning when we encountered species with superior tactics. We have always evolved when necessary. The chamber fell silent as Zovik approached the human hologram. But trust does not come easily to conquerors, he said. We require proof, not of your power, which you've demonstrated, but of your intentions. What proof would satisfy you, Imperator? Ilara asked. Show us one world transformed. Let us observe, interact, and verify that what you offer is evolution, not extinction. Ilara's form pulsed with blue light. Agreed. We will transform one uninhabited world in your territory as demonstration. Your scientists may study the process at every stage. And if we ultimately refuse, Zovik pressed. Then we will depart, Ilara said simply. We force evolution on no one. But know that your empire will face the Vexthal alone, and we predict your extinction within 30 years. With that, the hologram disappeared, leaving the Imperial Council in stunned silence. 3 days later, Commander Thrax stood on the observation deck of the science vessel, Relentless Inquiry, as it orbited the uninhabited world designated KV-291. Below, the human vessels had arranged themselves in a perfect geometric pattern around the planet. It's beginning, announced Chief Scientist Vila, her attention fixed on the sensor readings. Streams of energy flowed from the human ships, enveloping the planet in a net of light. Where the streams intersected, matter began to change. Barren rock transformed into crystalline structures that grew like living things. The atmosphere, once thin and toxic, thickened and clarified before their eyes. Impossible, Vila whispered. They're restructuring matter at the quantum level. Environments that would take billions of years to evolve naturally are forming in ours. Over the next week, Thrax watched as an entire world was reborn. Oceans formed where none had existed. Engineered ecosystems sprang to life, each organism perfectly adapted to its niche. Structures rose from the transformed landscape, not buildings as the Carvaz understood them, but seamless extensions of the environment, as if the planet itself had grown them. When the transformation was complete, the humans invited the Carvaz to send representatives to the surface. Thrax volunteered immediately. The experience defied description. The moment he set foot on the transformed world, Thrax felt his consciousness expand. He remained himself, yet simultaneously connected to every living thing around him. Plants, animals, the planet itself, all resonated with a harmonious awareness that welcomed him into their collective experience. This is a simplified version of what full transcendence offers, Ilara explained, manifesting beside him. Here, biological beings can experience the interconnectedness that forms the foundation of our existence. It's overwhelming. Thrax managed, struggling to process the sensations. Yet notice that you remain yourself, Ilara pointed out. Your identity is not diminished by connection, it is enhanced. This is what we offer the Empire, not an ending, but a new beginning. When Thrax returned to the Imperial capital 3 days later, he found a changed atmosphere. News of the transformed world had spread, along with sensor data that defied conventional explanation. For the first time in living memory, the citizens of the Empire were discussing possibilities beyond conquest. The High Council convened once more, this time in the Grand Assembly Hall with thousands of officials present. Imperator Zovik entered without ceremony, his usual entourage absent. When he spoke, his voice carried not with the mechanical amplification of imperial protocols, but with simple clarity. 3 centuries ago, our ancestors launched the Great Expansion because they believed it was the only path to survival. Resources were finite. Security required dominance. Evolution rewarded the strong. Zovik's gaze swept across the assembly. Today, we face an evolutionary fork. Continue on our current path toward eventual extinction, or transcend the limitations that have defined us. I have touched the mind of the transformed world. I have seen what we might become. Murmurs spread through the assembly. I do not command this choice, Zovik continued. For the first time in our history, each Carvaz must decide individually. Those who wish to remain as they are may do so. Those who choose transcendence will pioneer our species' next evolution. In the months that followed, the Empire underwent a transformation more profound than military conquest could ever achieve. As millions of Carvaz chose transcendence, the nature of their civilization shifted. The hunger for conquest faded not through defeat, but through the realization that it had always been unnecessary. The species that had terrorized the galaxy for centuries became its most enthusiastic explorers of consciousness. Their unique evolutionary history, shaped by conquest and hierarchy, brought perspectives to the collective that even the humans found valuable. 5 years later, Commander Thrax, one of the last to maintain his biological form, stood on the observation deck of what had once been the Conquest Fleet's flagship. Now repurposed for exploration, it approached the territory of the Vex-Al Hive. Beside him, Ilara manifested in her familiar form. "Are you certain about this mission?" she asked. "The Hive has rejected all attempts at communication, which is why they need a former conqueror to understand them." Thrax replied, "Before I transcend, I want to complete this work. Perhaps the species that once terrorized the galaxy can help save another from itself." As the ship continued toward its destination, Thrax reflected on the irony. For centuries, the galaxy had lived in fear of the Carvaz Empire. All that took to change everything was for humans, the species that should have had the most reason to seek vengeance, to finally speak, and offer not destruction, but evolution.